Well, hello again from here at a glorious, if blustery, Whitley Park. Now, if you listen carefully, you can hear Newcastle training behind the trees there. It sounds as if they're in good spirits, and so they should be with that Carabao Cup final 2 days away. And I've just heard what I think sounded like Dan Burn shouting, "Oh my God, oh my God." Now, let's hope that was for a stupendous piece of Alexander Isak's skill as opposed to any injury scare. Now, will this be the last time we talk together with Newcastle United trophyless in 70 years? I've got to say, since the semi-final 5 weeks ago, I ventured from they will win, to they can't win, to they should win, to they can win. I've been through all of those emotions and opinions, and I think I know where I've landed right now. I think I know how Sunday is going to play out. We'll come back to that in just a moment. But first of all, it's been a bumper press conference morning inside there. Eddie Howe, followed by Bruno Guimaraes and Alexander Isak on the stage together. The latter part of that, now that was fun. I hope they bounce off each other as well at Wembley as they did on the stage with us journalists this morning. So a lot to get through in that regard. But first of all, the big newsy items coming out of today and the past week. Wow, what a week it's been. By the way, I've spent a few days in Sweden looking into the upbringing, the making of the world's best striker, Alexander Isak. Would you believe he was made, he was trained, everything about him came from a former Cold War nuclear bunker just 5 miles north of Stockholm. I'll put the link in the description to that piece below the line. An absolutely fascinating few days out there. And as Isak was leaving the press conference right now, I showed him a couple of pictures I'd taken over there with former teammates and coaches, which he seemed more than happy to flick through. So the biggest news this week is that, as revealed on the back page of the day's Daily Mail and yesterday in Newcastle Confidential, Newcastle now are pushing ahead. All roads lead towards a new super stadium in Leazes Park. But I'm going to come back to that. Now, the big news this morning was the news we brought you first last night at Mail Sport exclusively, that Dan Burn, aged 32, was set for his first ever call-up to the England squad. It really is quite a magnificent story. Eddie Howe, the news was just breaking at 9 o'clock when Eddie Howe sat down with us, and I thought his words were really nice. He called it one of the great football stories, and it is when you consider where Dan Burn has came from, stacking shelves in Asda as a 17-year-old to now 15 years on, being on the verge of an England debut, and let's hope he really gets it. I'll be away covering England next week, and I really, really do hope to see Dan Burn get that elevation, that first cap. And for me, it would be deserved. I think England missed a trick at the World Cup a couple of years ago when there was all the talk of the issues they had down the left-hand side there. Would they take Dan Burn? Should they take Dan Burn? For me, then, he should have been looked at. He was in the sort of form he's in now. It hasn't dropped off. If anything, you would say this season he's gone to another level. And I remember speaking to Dan about 4 or 5 weeks ago after the win down at Southampton. We broached the England subject. It was just almost a throwaway question at the end. Has that chance gone now? And he said, well, yeah, it probably has now. But, wow, it hasn't. He's in there. And for me, given how he's played this season, and it was also a part of that interview as well when I said to him, we talk about Tonali, Bruno, Isak, and you're asked questions about them. What's it like to play against Isak in training? Well, I said we should be asking Isak, what's it like to play against Dan Burn in training? Because to that point, he had been, is, for me, Newcastle's player of the season. I've committed that to these videos before. I don't know if Thomas Tuchel watches them, and that's where he's got the inspiration from, but he's just been there. He's been consistent. Not just that, sometimes he can play it down. It's almost like the player awards when we were kids. Most improved, our team member of the year, the club member of the year. It's the award no one really wanted. Dan Burn is all of that, but he's also brilliant on top of it. And there's been so many games this season when I do the merit stars and I come to reflecting, Burn has been in there with a 1, a 2 or a 3, and that is for me so many times has he been the difference, not in putting Newcastle into winning positions, but he's been the man who has protected those leads and seen home victories and safeguarded points. So yeah, for me, well done, Dan. He's just an all-round good, brilliant guy. But before he gets to England and before he goes to St George's Park on Monday, what should ordinarily be the biggest event in his life right now, well, it's not, because as a Geordie boy, as a former season ticket holder, he's got that cup final down at Liverpool on Sunday. And I suppose the good news coming out of today is that there are no fresh injury concerns. Only Lewis Hall, Anthony Gordon, Sven Botman, Jamal Lascelles, they're the 4 who's missing. So to have that game down at West Ham on Monday, which was tough, it was hard fought, it was gritty. We'll come back to what I thought of that and where it left Newcastle in terms of their chances on the final. But given it was a clean sheet, an away win, putting them back up right on the fringe of the Champions League places there, Eddie Howe said so much this morning, they couldn't really have asked for any more, and it's left them in a good place. And if you listen to the laughs and the jokes and everything else and the screeches and screams coming from behind those trees, it sounds like they are in a good place, better than they were 2 or 3 weeks ago. I spoke about that at the time, that there was just an increasing bad smell, bad feel about the way things were going since that brilliant, wonderful, raucous night against Arsenal in the Carabao Cup semi-final. They came massively off it, collectively and individually. They then had the horrible week with Gordon, Hall and Botman. Those 3 pieces of news, one day after another, they would all miss the final. But I said in a strange way that it might just take the pressure off, and from such situations, bad situations, good things can come. Well, something good came at West Ham, and can they then now take that into Sunday against Liverpool? I really think they can. Now, what I will say is, and this was my reflection after the game at West Ham, and I then jumped in a taxi down to Gatwick Airport before flying out to Stockholm the next day, and I spent the entire taxi journey arguing on WhatsApp with my colleague and my good friend Martin Hardy as to what we were taking from Monday. Now, for me, this was the point I made. I didn't look at that performance at West Ham and think, there go cup final winners. There goes a team who was back, who was rediscovered everything we know they are good at, and what makes them, in terms of that energy, the aggression, the envy of the Premier League when they go after teams like they did against Arsenal in those 2 legs, like they have done against a lot of the top teams. That side wasn't there on Monday. I'm sorry it wasn't. You can't escape that. But it was something else there, something different, a togetherness, a spirit, a resolve. Now, I think it might just have been, and then when you look at what subsequently played out with Liverpool, 24 hours later, there was another debate as to, was that a good thing or a bad thing for Newcastle, Liverpool going out with the Champions League? I honestly think, guys, I think it's a good thing. They were starting to feel as if they were invincible. A week before in Paris, they played badly, poorly. They didn't look very good at all. PSG battered them, that Liverpool won 1-0, and I just think they had this bubble, this aura around them. That was burst against PSG, and I think that for Newcastle can be a positive. They've also gone the full 120 minutes and end up going to penalties as well. Don't underestimate what that's done to them physically. They've lost Trent Alexander-Arnold. Canate is a doubt, so they've got their own worries and issues and vulnerabilities coming into this game. So for me, I think that's been a little bit of a levelling up in terms of all of those doubts which are surrounding both teams. So where has that left me in terms of what will happen, what can happen? Well, I think Eddie might go with the same team he played down at West Ham on Monday. I would do that. Now, the temptation perhaps is to bring Joe Willock in, offer a little bit more of a defensive mindset, a little bit more running power instead of Harvey Barnes on the left up against Mo Salah down Liverpool's right. I wouldn't do that because Barnes on Monday night, now wasn't his greatest performance? No, it wasn't, but he put himself in positions to score goals. If not for the goalkeeper, I might have had 2 in the first half. He eventually creates the winning goal as well. And he didn't shy away. I saw something different there. There's games I watch Harvey Barnes where I think he comes in and out and he just waits to execute that one move he's got down the left, cut in his right foot. He didn't do that on Monday night. He was here, there and everywhere. And to that end, because of that, I think you've got to let him try and take that into the final. And guys, if Newcastle are to come back with the trophy, with the cup, to end that 70-year wait for a domestic trophy, they probably are going to have to score a goal or look like scoring a goal at some point. And Harvey Barnes on Monday night was their biggest threat, their biggest danger, even more so than Alexander Isak. So Barnes, for me, should stay in the team, and I think he will. And that apart, it almost picks itself as well. Now, in a roundabout way, I'm getting to what I think will happen. And I used that phrase before there, levelling up. Now, little story. I managed to get tickets for my 2 oldest boys. My wife has taken them down, and we told the boys this week that we'd gotten the tickets, which was a lovely, wonderful moment. And I hope, as many of you as possible either have done in the past, have done this week, or will do in the future, have that moment where you tell your kids they're going to Wembley. So that's great. Now, I said to the boys, when we give them the tickets, what's your predictions? Now, the oldest boy, 8-year-old, who watches a lot of football, he said, not sure, Liverpool are probably favourites. The younger one, the middle one, Newcastle win 2-1. Then turned to my wife, what do you think? Yeah, Newcastle 1-1. To which we laughed, and the boys jumped on it and said, well, no, that's not possible. But I'm actually in agreement. Now, I don't know if she actually meant this, or she just making a mistake, but I think this one is going to go the distance. And when it does go to penalties, who will be the hero? Well, there's been so much debate, so much to and fro, in and out over Newcastle's goalkeeping situation. It looks like Nick Pope will keep the gloves on Sunday, and might just it be that fairy tale, that story, the Pope is Newcastle's hero. So I've got to my prediction pretty early, but this is what is going to happen. It's going to be 1-1. My wife was right, and then Newcastle are going to win on penalties. You heard it here first. Now, of course, as I've already flagged, we've spoken to Alexander Isak inside, and inevitably he was, of course, pressed on his future. And I'll be honest with this, guys. What did we take from it? Well, will you talk to the club at the end of the season? Yeah, probably, he said. But for now, all talk of his future, that's parked. He's just focusing on the football. Now, it was a very political, very safe, very steady answer, but there wasn't any outright commitment or declarations of I'm going to spend the next 5 years here. And that is because, and I've been really consistent on this, it's because we just don't know. Now, Darren Neal said to us 2 weeks ago that yes, they would sit down and talk to Alex at the end of the season, and of course they will. Now, does that mean they can go to where he wants, where he deserves in terms of that number, those terms? We don't yet know that. Do we even know if Alexander Isak wants a new contract? Talking to him inside there, I think you could make an argument either way, really. He was pretty non-committal on all of it. If anything, that would probably side towards he still doesn't really know. He's a little bit unsure. And is that not because we've got to see how this season plays out? Now, if Newcastle win the Carabao Cup and then they get in that top 5 and back into the Champions League, the picture is entirely different in terms of what the players think about and believe in terms of the direction of the club. It also allows the hierarchy from a financial point of view to put those zeros on end of contracts and give players the money they want. So that still is up in the air. And I think it was sensible of Isak this morning just to park all talk of his future. Now, on the stadium, as promised earlier, now it's my information, it's been this for a while now, that everything is geared towards Newcastle exploring a new site on Leazes Park. Well, in the last couple of weeks, that information, since the meeting, the high-level summit at Matfin Hall, that information is really solidified. And now I'm told that Newcastle will take their plans for the new stadium on Leazes Park with the footprint that doesn't overlap St James's. It's further in to the park. The capacity of around 65,000, not quite as high as the 70 we thought previously. They're going to take those plans to the government, to Downing Street, in a bid to get sign-off, in a bid for top-level officials to help them cut through what will probably be red tape and pushing ahead with this project. Now, once all of that is secured, that is when we'll have final decisions, and that will be communicated to supporters. But I'm told the St James's Park redevelopment plans for now, they've been shelved. Everything is geared towards going to Leazes Park. But forget about Leazes Park and new stadiums for now. This weekend, guys, well, we know what it's all about. It's about Wembley. If you are going down, please have a safe journey. Enjoy yourself. I'm on the 12 o'clock train out of Newcastle tomorrow. Please come and say hello. Let's have a chat. Let's have a beer in Covent Garden tomorrow night. I love the interaction. I really do. And thank you so much for all the views and comments in the wake of recent games. Now, below the line, tell me, what do you think is going to happen? Am I right? Am I wrong? What team would you play? What do you think about the stadium as well? That 65-ish sort of capacity. I think it's right. That's a video for another day. I think the club have made the right call on that one. About the Alexander Isak time I've just spent out in Sweden there, please have a read. Tell me what you think. I absolutely love that. A fascinating delve into his childhood. I jumped on the bus, went the 3 miles out to the block of flats where he lived, walked all around there, went in cafes, spoke to coaches, teammates, current players there. A really wonderful few days, and just brought home, wow, Newcastle are lucky to have such a special player like Isak, and he could just be that difference maker on Sunday. So yeah, all those comments below the line. I'll be back in, I was going to say 48 hours time. If it goes to penalties, probably be more than 48 hours. It's going to be a late finish. And I'll be reflecting, on Newcastle having lifted the cup after having gone 120 minutes. There you go. I said to myself, don't make predictions, don't set yourself up, but I'm going to go for it. Let me know what you think. And if you're going down, just have the best weekend. It's so exciting. It's brilliant. This is where we want Newcastle to be as a journalist. It's just a fascinating, every week there's something different on the pitch, off the pitch. It's just a brilliant club to cover. It really is. And thank you so much for all of your support. And yeah, I'll see you again in 2 days' time from the stands of Wembley. Okay, take care, guys. Bye-bye.